Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Hand of Fate 2. So, I've been working around this minor emergency. So, I haven't had a lot of time to try to make long-running episodes, which has worked out fairly well for this game because I just want to be done with this game and finish Judgment. So, what I have been able to do, and you will probably notice from the last episode, is just grind out a lot of things. Take note here, almost every single of the previous quests now is in gold. I even did like the brimstone version of strength to unlock another item. And this was all just getting accomplished in parallel in small bursts. So I'd play for like 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, just never really having enough time where I could dedicate to say, I'm going to start recording and I'm going to play all the way through a mission without possibly being interrupted. And almost certainly that is the right way to play. When you exit this game, if you're in the middle of a mission, it saves. That is, of course, still assuming that you should play, which is still a big assumption here. It's not like the game has gotten better as I played that way significantly. And it's not really like unlocking the platinum versions of the characters and companions has helped. And to get like the gold version of this, I'd have to just look up online, and I couldn't pick my specific companion on this quest. I don't think you pick specific companions for any of these, like last two at least. Like, we could do the moon also, but like none of that makes sense. One of the major problems with the game flow here is that each one of these companion characters, all of which are platinum now and have different names. The magician was called the Bard originally, was pretending to be a bard, and his story, most of the reading I skipped and didn't really bother reading, but his story is he's like the last of the mages, or one of the last of the mages, hiding, and it turns into a bunch of children who are mages being hunted down, I think, by the Empire and saving those children. And it seems like that he was part of a group that created corruption in the first place, and he got corruption in his arm, and they had to cut it off and magically replace it. The ally, I think, was called the Companion before. His thing was that he refused to just fight for the Empire on the commands of the High Priestess, and as such he was called a coward and his clan was burnt to the ground. And so he goes through this whole journey of trying to avenge his clan. At one point he literally dies, and you have to go through this magical process of resurrecting him. And the barrier on this one in particular is that he has to fight a fairly hard battle in the last encounter, which that's the right way to do it. Where here you have to have an encounter, I think, where you have just a lot of gold, way more gold than you would. And the barrier for the soldier, now known as the rebel, was that you needed 27 food, and boy was it hard to get 27 food. And that was like the second out of 5 steps. And that really highlights the bad game flow design there, where you are spending a lot of struggle early in game trying to get enough gold, enough food in this case, to just move the story forward. After you move the story forward, for the soldier, is that she goes down the path of having to rebel against the army because her hometown is being destroyed by the Empire, and so she's fighting against her former Empire fellow soldiers, and At some point you free some peasants and you free some ogres, and your last final battle is you fight like 5 encounters with Empire people in a row. It probably was only 4, but I didn't keep count. And then in that final encounter, you can decide if you want to summon in the peasants and the ogre to fight with you. The general idea there is to wait till the last battle, but you don't really know which one is the last battle, although they do spell it out in the text pretty obviously. It's not the first time you see a captain level enemy, and so I wasted my ogre on the second to last battle, but it didn't matter because so many pieces of equipment in parallel have upgraded, and my gameplay probably hasn't gotten much better, but just the items I ended up getting got so much better that I was able to still finish this. And you need all of this. This isn't me just ranting here for no reason. You need each of these characters to be in their platinum level to have a really good chance of doing this quest that we're about to jump into. Here we have the hero. She was the blacksmith before, and the backstory here is her father was known as a coward, and so she wanted to be a hero to I guess cleanse the family name. And the move there is you end up fighting an ogre 3 times in a row in that final encounter, which still is like the right way to do it, but it is a fairly difficult encounter. You have an ogre at full health, and then you have an ogre at half health, and then you have an ogre at quarter health. Fighting them in a row, you really aren't going to have opportunities around that, so you're going to want really high defense. But weirdly, I was able to do that in the strength quest, which has your life starting at very low, and you really don't need like a high max level life or even more than 60 or 70 health to do this, because the trick really is you just have to take your time and use the hero's ability, which is a charge hammer attack that does a lot of damage. So the entire fights 3 times in a row aren't aggressive and shouldn't be aggressive. You just hit the left bump to activate her ability, then you run to the other side of the screen and you wait for her to attack. You trying to keep the ogre somewhere on the edge of the screen so you can kind of see where he is, because he has some red highlighted unblockable attacks that will happen twice in a row, so you have to just double tap A and roll out of the way when he's doing that. Then he'll usually attack a repositable green highlighted attack, but you're probably better off just dodging that also. And by the time he does that, the hero's ability will probably be recharged, and you'll just activate it again, then run to the other side of the screen. You rinse and repeat that for the second fight, and you rinse and repeat that for the third fight, and you have a very decent chance of winning those encounters and getting the hero platinum card. Which isn't very fun or satisfying way to win, but it is the right way to win. Now, Huey here, I think, is DLC. So he was just added. So I'm not sure that there really is any real reason to try and get him to go to platinum, unless we find out that there is some reason and all of a sudden the orphan plays a role in the main story. The Shadow is definitely DLC, and Ketera is definitely DLC. And I'm not sure if Ketera here still has some kind of shard. It looks like she does have a purple shard that you could unlock for DLC character and items. And we never even unlocked the Shadow. We may go through all of that, but I really wouldn't suspect that I would spend too much time trying to do that. But yeah, when you're doing Judgment, which is what we're doing here, you don't get to pick companions. You have all 4 of the companions. So let's start to kind of talk about what we've made progress on. I finally got the watchtower to work. I may have looked up how to do it, but I honestly couldn't even tell you what I did to get that to work. And then let's see if there's anything else to start with that on these cards. These are probably the wrong cards to play. You do want to focus more on these kinds of encounters because they will give you large rewards. But then you have things like this, that to get this shard you have to remove 2 or 3 curses, so you're really going to have to make an entire playthrough for that one reason. This I unlocked by getting gold on the Hanged Man, I believe. This I unlocked by finishing the soldiers, the rebel ability, so I don't know what that does. This I may have unlocked while grinding. Lady of the Lake gives you a weapon. This will receive resources or blessings, and I got this from finishing the storyline. So you do get one event card extra on top of the companion once they go platinum. So the event cards themselves probably are fairly useful, because I don't think there's any negative outcomes on them. This may be one new. I don't think it actually is. This one I also got in the process of finishing the heroes quest. And so by getting platinum with all the characters, they're probably showing you and giving you the exact cards you should be playing too. This is another one where you can exchange a companion for another companion. Now in this quest, since you have all 4 companions, there's no reason for that. Notice how the artwork here is just the 4 original companions. I'm not sure if you could really swap it out with any of the DLC companions or not. But also, you would never really do that in this quest. And frankly, they don't give you this card fast enough and early enough for it to be useful. It feels like you should unlock this card the second you unlock a secondary companion. And then you could always swap at that point. Let's see if there's... These all are in, I think, just alphabetical order once you've done everything with them. Yeah, it's alphabetical, which is probably as good of a thing as any other way to organize it. I think I showed off the little devil that will either give you a curse if you don't have one, or remove a curse if you do have one, which is only going to be useful in a few places. This one may not be the worst one to take in this journey. Then there are also quests like this that we got a long time ago with the portal creature, and it just doesn't feel like that storyline that was built around that ever went anywhere. This is a quest card we got for getting Colburn as a platinum character. So there should also be one for the mage, but I'm not sure. This Street Fighter card is actually probably a little bit better than what you would think, because it lets you select amongst the 4 major enemies who you're going to fight. So if you've got a piece of equipment to upgrade and unlock, Street Fighter is one to take, just because if you're going to fight thieves and you need to fight thieves, but you're not playing a quest where you're fighting thieves, then that will let you pick thieves. Warring Kingdoms is another example of a storyline that just kind of feels like it's out of nowhere. I finally got the shard for Watchtower. I got the token for this, which you just have to win a wheel gambit for that, and that gives you an item, and then there's just really no reason why you'd ever play that again. Yeah, but even at that, it is very noticeable here that there is... Oh, here's the one that the mage got. The underneath. So, did we get one for... Yeah, we have one for the soldier, one for the hero, one for the mage, and I think we got the event for... Not sure this cunning man is actually useful. We should have something that says the High Priestess. Now, to get the shard on this, I know I have to remove 3 curses. I'm just not going to have curses. And some of these reveal maps things actually don't work because you have to trade a helmet to use the spyglass. There. That's the one we got from Colburn. We should have that one too. So even though they give you 19 spots, you do have a fairly high limitation on what you should have equipped. And I'm probably being a little bit silly on some of these card picks. Yeah, as far as encounters. And that's not even getting us to the equipment, which I think I may just have to show all platinum ones. I think this unlocked by getting High Priestess on the Brimstone requirement. Let's see. We're still making progress on some of these. I'm not going to really be fighting Northerners here. I got the shard on this one. That one's probably good. Slowly making progress on some of these, although not really anywhere as good as it should be. Not really going to fight mages. Dionysus Revenge. Full weapon damage, so if I have a really strong weapon. A defense 8 shield without reflect. On the ram shield we probably don't need. Empire. Probably not going to run into goblins. Not going to run into shadows. You're just never going to get that quest. The goblins or the shadows quests. In almost every case. And then this gold pain DLC thing, I think is also probably not what you would want. This one hurts thieves more. This is one of the Brimstone cards I didn't get around to actually doing. So you probably would get a platinum card from that. This is Bash causing additional damage to armor is probably not a bad one. But max life might be better. Wheel nudge might be better, or just overall armor might be better. Yeah. it definitely is a case. Here's one that was unlocked as yet another just generic item that I unlocked using tokens and finishing quests. But you run into so many of these. Yeah, we definitely want the peeler instead. So many of these weapons to start with that you're pretty exhausted before you even get to that first shield. The peeler here is a two-handed weapon, so if you're going to use that, you're not going to have a shield. It doesn't inherently mean you shouldn't have a shield or start with a shield that is at least valuable. So I think taking the golden shield and possibly selling it for 100 gold early on at the beginning of a run might be your very best bet if you're going to go with the two-handed weapon in the longer event. And for the most part, what you'd want to do here is fight your way through the fights and not give up your armor to take the shortcuts. And it's easier than it seems. Now you get to these potions and artifacts just all kind of bundled together, and it's pretty impossible to compare apples to apples here. Here we have another card. I have no idea what it does, so I need to take it. There is an argument to take probably this. There's some events where you get a platinum version of Empire's Burden, but that seems to be a temporary item, not something that you can unlock. At least it doesn't seem like it is. There's basically only one quest where you fight enough skeletons to justify ever using that. And each one of these items sometimes look like they might do some damage, but it's specific to one type of enemy, and every quest inherently is then mostly that one enemy. Warlock wraps. Probably not worth it. Deal 100 damage to random and thief. Okay, so where are we? We have a defense of 20 on the Champion's Plate Mail. We probably just want that. The only other thought would be to do like Dead King Scales and fight ogres, and yeah, you're gonna have a real hard time finding 5 other ogres without event cards and really playing strength to fight ogres to get this shard. The jousting armor here was the platinum card that gives you 20 defense, and it's a heavy armor, but then it gives you a platinum piece of armor that we almost certainly will want to take instead of that in the platinum suit, which is light and flexible at 22 defense. So after you've done the token for jousting armor, there's not really a reason why you would play it anymore, and that's true for most of these items. And yes, there is arguments to try pious robes, but remember, you're going to get one of each item, so you kind of want the right way to do this is to really have a whole bunch of artifacts and a whole bunch of rings, and one shield, one weapon, one helmet, one weapon. Like that's the right way to do this, and just give up on trying to get quests and tokens, because you have two choices here that are contradictory. You either continue to grind out for shards, which aren't that important, or grind out for tokens, which are important. I think the move almost certainly is to try and have as many rings as possible. And that might just be every ring. Yeah. Alright. I'm gonna have to pause and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. That was way less of an emergency than the alarms going off in the background may have made it sound like, but yeah. Sorry about that. Like I said, I've had a lot of these I'm coming out of a medium-sized emergency, and interruptions like that have been happening fairly frequently. So anyways, we were on the thought process of just what is the right way to do this. Even if you get more than one artifact, you're going to just use that artifact fairly quickly and then get rid of it. One of these artifacts, I think, may gain charges if it kills somebody. Like, obviously you don't want like Thieves' Folly as a ring, though. We have a massive 13 room for rings, so let's start with just the one on the right here. Undead inflict 20% less damage. Are we fighting undead? We're fighting blight characters, so that might be useful. That is going to be useful. Life received from consuming food is increased. That's going to be helpful. Rate enemies healed during combat is reduced. That would be helpful. You're probably not going to get captured. You're probably not going to take fire damage. You're probably not going to fight thieves, but there is a thought of taking that anyways. This will help you with gambles, and you're going to run into a lot of this. This one just gives you defense. That makes a lot of sense. Discard non-food cards to gain food. That's
like that one, don't
helpful if you do that. Probably not going to get a blessing, but you know, maybe we could work those two together. Lose a companion for 3 turns to ignore pain cards not necessary. Pain cards being reduced. It's probably not necessary either, because you just don't take in pain cards. So there would be a thought of doing this, which is use finishers against thieves, which you're not going to do, or taking this ring, which would require you to give up something else, which would have to be the peeler, and I just don't think that's the right move, although it may very well be the right move. And so then that puts you back into this point where these masks still count as helms. So if you want to get the right helm to start with, you wouldn't take that. These armors count as armor, so if you wanted to get the right armor, you wouldn't take that. You're basically setting up your build you're setting up your build very quickly for what you're going to do for the rest of the run, which makes this mission way more of a case around just a deck building concept more than any of the other quests. guess we just got a bunch of these artifacts. We have like 3 more artifacts to consider. Less effective against corruption. Volley of arrows over and over again. Buff companions and allies. That's a weird one. I don't think I'd ever really play that. Freezing an enemy with first hit. Dead man's hand. Cry of victory. But yeah, you basically have to just fill up your equipment with these things you may not even use as far as artifacts and rings, just so you don't end up getting the wrong items as your first draw. And that fully, obviously, and I'm saying this just going in circles almost saying this, but just highlights that you are going to not really make any progress as far as unlocking items. Now, we've almost spent an entire episode at this point just showing what's been upgraded, and we still have the carryover upgrades here, where we could just get 5 extra food, 10 extra gold, 5 max life, 5 fame. Fame you probably want, but you may not even need it. You may start with actually a lot of fame anyways. Gold and food may not be that useful. And I really couldn't tell you at this point if any of these weapons have upgraded or been better, but there's still Goblin token here. There is a Shadows token card here. We could bash the Empire with this weapon and do that. There are some quests and shards or tokens, something like that, that want reflective shields, and you basically need to be fighting the Empire to use a reflective shield, because thieves don't shoot things at you. Trappers in the Northerners throw bolas at you, but I don't think you can really reflect those. Corrupted don't shoot things at you, really. So reflect is almost exclusively for the gun-carrying Empire. Although there might be some sword attacks or something that works also. Here. And see, I'd almost wonder if it would be better to take healing spirits. This gun, ignoring defense, having 5 uses that recharge after each run, is probably more useful than this hammer is in the long run. And this is a DLC card that might actually have changed the balance, whereas this one would have only had 3 uses. This needs to defeat 3 ogres with to move that forward. And it really does not make any sense to take any armor or anything like that. And Ring of Preparation isn't that useful. Soul Gem to revive a companion won't bring them back to life. I did get this card, Necromancer's Call, by finishing one of the quests. It lets you summon some skeletons to fight on your behalf 3 or 4 times before a fight. It's not very useful, and Fate's Path is not that useful in this case. So, yeah. As best as I can tell, this is as good as it's gonna get. as far as a build. But there's more to say. Certainly I could just end the episode here and go, well, that's all the upgrades that I did off screen in playing what was probably close to... It feels like it was probably another 10 hours of gameplay. Off screen grinding out 10 hours that, in all honesty, I would not have chosen to play if I was just playing this game. I would have rage quit this game. Not really upset with it, but I would have just lost interest. So you start with 15 fame, which that inherently means almost every weapon you're going to get is probably fine. We've killed the Empire, the Emperor, and now all of the Empire soldiers are chasing after you. Yeah. So the gold quest here is to ensure all the companions escape alive. So, first thing to do is to have the Rebel Honor as our companion to start with, because you are going to get a lot of swing quests. And so it's just going from here to there. You have to go through the middle or use the secret cave. So, with this, at the very beginning, you lose any opportunity to actually use this, which is fine. This is 25 damage and it only required 8 fame. 23 damage and only required 8 fame to equip. But this is also 23 damage, so I could use it if I wanted to. And that would save me some quests. So the question here is, could we destroy armor of an armored empire in this run and then swap out, because then you'd have one more platinum card. On this we could use healing spirits. That's what we started with, and we have Dionysius' Revenge given to us. Here we have a 22 defense that required 18 fame, so we did need that extra fame to wear that, and this required 20 fame, so we needed that. And then we only have the Ring of Precaution, so we didn't get a whole bunch of rings at this process. So there's very little that happens in this encounter that is random. You run into these, you pick all those encounters, but you barely run into them. Like, we know what's going to happen pretty much going forward. We're going to go left here, run into one random encounter. We're going to go up here, here. We're going to fight the corrupted, which there's a trick on that. Then we're going to go to the city streets and then pick, depending on which way is the best way to avoid encountering the guards, ways to get down here and go to the Empire, and then, or the city limits. And then there's a trick on that. In fact, this is all just around tricks. So we run into the very first of the platinum companion cards here, the blacksmith. You find the forge at the gates of the town of Terran. A column of smoke bellows as from the stack, and you hear familiar clanging metal. Anders greets you as you approach. So we have 10 gold. We could either upgrade a helmet or upgrade a shield, but if they're platinum, it may not be upgraded full. Like, this is 10 defense now. It might be upgradable to 20 defense. And defense is going to work really well, so let's see if we can do that. Choose this. 20 fame required, 10 defense, and all those bonuses, which also gives you two extra defense for every other item that has defense. So this is a really good helmet. You hand the smith your helm, and he begins examining you thoroughly, inspecting every joint and seam. Yes, I can certainly improve this, but it'll take a few days. So Now we have to go to that location to pick it up. Let's see. We want to spend 5 gold or just hitch a ride. You know what? Just hitch a ride.
The process of heat and the application of force either break us or shape us into stronger vessels.
The few nights in the traveling forge are not the most comfortable, but soon enough you find yourself in a village. I trust the ride wasn't too rough for you. I have prepared your equipment. He places the helm on the counter with a smile. You should be happy with this. Yeah. The smith's workmanship is exemplary. The helm feels stronger than it once was, yet its weight remains unchanged. Your helmet defense is increased by 10. So now we have a 20 defense helm, which our defense in general should be fairly high. Now, in the strength quest, you want a defense of 60. We have here 44 defense already, and we're not even using a shield. And if we could get rings. Now there is something weird about rings, because rings say they have a defense of 0, but you would think that would mean that equipment that offers defense gains +2. Well, a defense of 0 is offering defense, so there is an alternate way this could have been programmed where every single ring would have given you another 2 defense. But they're not that generous. You thank the blacksmith once again and continue your journey. So this is why you want Australia's. You want to get
patience.
This
do not move too quickly.
Silver
for
or gold
haste breeds only failure.
And gold's going to be difficult because that is narrow.
Breathe. You have done well.
And so you have a second one here. So it's questionable what gold would even do in this case, because if gold removed 2 monster cards and there's only 1 monster card, who knows what would happen. Then you can use her ability to try again, but that puts her down for a while. So that was just like an entire fight avoided.
Here we see yet another wheel, each different, yet each bearing their own similarities.
We'll just escape.
That should help.
But that only stops you from doing 1 fight. And I don't think these encounters are actually that valuable. You can see from my outfit here, there is a lot going on. The main move here with the peeler is to destroy that armor very quickly, and then they do this attack, and then you dodge that attack, and then the peeler does enough damage on the finisher to kill them. So I don't believe I took a single hit in that case. So defense is not even that big of a deal in that encounter. But when you do fights like that, it's not like you get a massive extra amount of fame for doing really well. Yeah, I'm at 105 health. I didn't take a single hit. I did that fairly quickly. This is where a game could easily cheat, and in the favor of the player, it could cheat and give you a bonus reward. But it doesn't. So, unless you are just deciding here,
Back to the bones.
should have probably.
I hope you have learned to be their master.
Swapped characters, but I didn't know this was going to be Cave of Wonders either, so I would have had to have been psychic to know that. And really the only reason I'm doing this is to Should I trade this? See if I can get a ring. But I'm trading a lot of life here. Of course, does that matter? Probably does. Yes, I have healing spirits. To recover from this, but I don't think I have. And food will slowly recover healing spirits. There's no combo, as far as I know, that would have you in Cave of Wonder.
You continue to impress.
Automatically find the right item. Yeah. And see, Empire's Burden is not even as good. Because look at what Dionysus's Revenge really does. It causes full weapon damage to all enemies when activated. If an enemy is killed, gain an extra usage. We have 3 usages. So we're just getting items kind of for their usages, but we don't even have the event and encounter where we could combine the charges. I could probably use some gold, but that's probably not. So yeah, 23 damage is more than what. Well, let's just double check that. This would do 30 damage to the Empire. And we'll save this for the very final battle, I guess. 5 usages. These characters don't have massive amounts of health. Okay. So you have this corrupted horde, which is just a very large amount of people. And so much so that there is actually a element here where you, if you were to fail the gambles we're about to do, you actually can never actually fight 5 enemies, enemy cards. It will just do pain cards and hurt you for each extra card over either 4 or 5. But you have each of your 4 companions on this first run, even if they're not platinum companions, which means you're going to have 4 chances to get rid of some cards. Ariande winds her hammer from above her heads and rushes towards the enemy. Now she's a platinum character, so maybe we don't have to really gamble as much. But let's use her ability, which the ability doesn't change when they go platinum, to double the huge successes. And let's hope that my eyes followed that. That wasn't a huge success. Malclip's book glows to summon a spell. And here you're actually trying to land on the red cards. Failed both times there.
Oh dear. Move faster next time.
So you get that platinum sound effect each time it swaps to those characters. I'll keep the 4. You do really poorly on these rolls very often. Very often you just land on the exact number more than it feels like you should. Right, so get rid of the 7 of Blight. So The dealer draws a life pain card for every monster you have until 4 remain. So, there's 10 lost, and it's from the bottom. So, potentially, you should also consider which cards to get rid of, because you might end up just losing more difficult cards on the bottom anyways. Had all of those been huge successes, you wouldn't have taken any life pain cards. We don't have Australia with us because she was now the thing that kind of sucks about this is, first of all, I'm getting stuck, so maybe I should have the ensnare ring. This guy sucks because you typically are doing like 100 damage to him, but you still have to do it 3 times in a row. These are all fairly slow-moving characters, but nothing really does stop them from hitting each other, or hitting you while you're trying to get rid of another character. The fight here is basically completely different from what you normally do, because normally you're hitting X like crazy, like I am now, finally, with these low-level characters. But with all the armor corrupted, that changes completely to just hitting B. And we've got this done, but my health is way lower than I'd like it to be. And the one thing that definitely show off here is to get to the city gates at least without dying. So we could, can we wait a while? No. We can swap companions, but it seems like they're all exhausted because I've used all of their abilities.
Careful, your supplies are running low.
So we're probably at a point. Oh yeah, we had the golden shield just for this reason, to sell the golden shield and have a whole bunch of gold. So then we could come and buy food in this case, but also possibly buy equipment. Can't quite afford that. That definitely puts us in a better position. So we get caught by the Empire, and I don't think there's any major benefit in fighting the Empire, but that is the encounters where you actually can get items. This is the first time I've even played as her, as the rebel, instead of the soldier. The Strellas traded her high-rank allies and family for hanging by high treason, a life on the run, and the possibility of a better world. Her pistol does much more damage.
Now we fight for honor.
Okay. None of that did anywhere as much damage as I thought it was going to. It might be the Empire's burn in particular doesn't doesn't account for armor, but Dionysus' Revenge does. Which, in contrast, I should have thought about using Dionysus' Revenge on the Corrupted. You do this, and we will take that. That's a bunch of gold, more fame. You really don't need fame. Okay, and so here we know we'd just be fighting the plague. So we might as well try something different on the left here. It's probably not worth running up there and doing every encounter. Let's see. I think the move here is to stand your ground. But it is also, I guess, worth mentioning that that's a terrible event card to have in this encounter because everything's brimstoned. I'm fighting brimstone goblins. While I'm thinking about this, it's also worth mentioning that, yeah, the what was I going to say? The number of achievements I've unlocked is kind of pathetically low still. 44 out of 99. It definitely gives me the feeling that there's probably hard mode achievements.
Traps.
We do now know what this does.
Sadly, not for the capture of them.
We'll go ahead and equip that. This also has 0 defense, so we're not getting a benefit of defense. This also kind of highlights how your defense is just not that useful outside of the fighting game mechanic, and even inside the fighting game mechanic. These characters are still hitting you pretty hard when they do hit you. It really is much more of a case of having a need for dodging ability than it is. Yeah, I don't know if there's really a benefit here of putting traps down over and over again.
We fight.
There we can see Australia got knocked down. A lot of the challenges want you to bash people. Bashing only has so much level of success, really. However, and having 38 fame is not really that big of a deal. Let's see. Should I even really be going for gold, or should I just bother to try for silver in these cases? I think it's probably better just go silver on both tries, since you get 2 tries. Because one Blight Juggernaut alone actually isn't even that dangerous. And it's always the same swing thing, so you kind of can plan there. That's a relatively easy fight. Oh, it's also worth pointing out, I guess, that the game crashed once again while I was playing off screen. So the trick here is to just press B, then A twice, then the trigger, then very quickly start pressing B again, even though it's not really hurting him for quite a while. If you zoom, go red, hit A twice. It shouldn't be A twice, really. It should be just A once. You can start your companion's ability if you want, but it's not actually going to help. Yeah. It wouldn't have benefited me to use the traps in that case, but I will see if they work in this next fight. So what we now know in previous runs is that when we get to the city limits, somebody has to stay behind, and that somebody dies. And then you lose that companion forever. It told me when I used Australia for this first level that you needed the rebel, which tells me that if you have all 4 of the platinum cards, they will not die in this scenario if you pick the right characters. And it's kind of obvious which characters to pick. You're in the city limits, and Australia's story very much centered around corruption in the city limits. I'm also starving.
The damage taken from starvation is more than the healing delivered by eating. As with many things, we find ourselves sliding further and further into hardship.
So here's where you can lose the gold token. Bells continue to toll as a crowd of paupers and townsfolk filled the square leading out of the Imperial City. Guards blocked the way, checking all wagons and persons trying to enter or leave. The people cry out in protest, let us through, but they have only met with a wall of shields blocking the gates. Colborne beckons to you in Australia. From the alley across the street, you press through the crowd, avoiding the guards and joining your companions. There are more soldiers here than we can hope to defeat, Australia whispers, and they will only gain in numbers the longer we linger. Somebody must be sacrificed, Colborne mutters. Mal clips his colorful hat, bells jangling. Don't have to be so cheery about it. I vote we don't send me because I won't be enough of a distraction. Arenade's blue eyes look worriedly between the two. Surely there's another way we can all escape. No, Colburn is right. It is the only way, Australia says, turning to the group. Someone will have to draw the guards' attention for those escape. There is precious little time. Who will be? So the pick here is just pick the right person. Now, if you pick the wrong person, they're almost certainly going to die. But if, and only if, you have the Rebel Platinum card, she should succeed, and we should catch up with her later, would be my thought. And we can see her combo attacks and retry swing gambits. Australia waits for you all to get to the front of the crowd near the gate, then, like a martyr to the gallows, she steps onto the merchant's cart. This is the same dialogue she says normally. Soldiers of the Empire, her voice rings clear and commanding. The square falls silent for the ringing of the bells in the distance, save for the ringing of the bells in the distance. I am Australia Fiore, former captain of the Empire and the Emperor's assassin. After a shocked pause, the guards spring into action, shoving past peasants to get to Australia. With no fear in her eyes, she glances to you, Malclips, Adni, and Colburn, nodding in acceptance. Suddenly, there is a shout from one of the peasants. It's the savior of Farwater. So this is where her personal story finished, is that she saved Farwater and became a rebel at that point, and this is new dialogue that I was not seeing before. She saved the town from an army that with not but 4 people on her side. Another calls out, the peasant king, he said she would return to lead us to freedom. Like a great machine roaring into action, the peasants turn as one and charge toward the city gates. Silence, this rabble captain captured a conspirator. A captain cries out before he is knocked out cold by a traitor's soup pot. Seeing her opportunity, Australia slips into the crowd and rejoins you and your companions as the soldiers scramble to fend off the rioting crowd. Without stopping to look back, you flee the city and head far east towards the marshes. And so we move forward now with her still intact. Savior of Farwater, eh? Malclips quips as you flee into the swamps. Australia smiles. We got lucky, and we can't hope to survive on luck alone. She turns to Ariadne. You know these parts. Where do we go from here? Ariadne looks over the marshlands. West of here is a bridge across the river, and beyond that is the way to the mountains. Flee the marshlands. Malclips stares into fire, and beyond the mountain is Marigold Fields and the caravan. Remember, we're racing to the caravan. So the good news is everybody made it out alive. Bad news is we are short on food and too high on gold. Yeah. So the move here is definitely going to be probably to still keep Australia as your main companion throughout the entire run. I might be wrong about that. I'm not 100% sure which character we use in this next encounter. What does that say? I can't even read it. To the brimstone effect. Out of the mud. I'll figure it out once we get there, whether it's supposed to be Colborne or Ariadne or even Malclips. I don't think it's Malclips. Let's see if we can get... Whoops, I went the wrong way anyways. That wasn't the right direction. I should have just gone to the left and to the left.
Quickly, while we have the upper ground. On my mark.
It's fairly unfair that there are characters that have the horn attacks, and it just kind of out of nowhere you can hear that horn sound effect. I imagine if you had the game muted or deaf or something, you would really struggle with that encounter, because all you would see is a red ring coming out of nowhere with less warning than people who actually heard the warning.
To battle.
There's a decent chance I'm not going to win here. I would need this to give me food. I'd need to avoid encountering other people for a little bit. Extra armor is not going to help. So here we have the underneath. Following Malclips' cryptic directions, many of which involved burrowing farm animals, you arrive at the edge of the vast and lonely lake. There you recover a cave entrance blocked by a stone door. And we don't even have 15 pieces of foods. Honestly, that underneath card is probably not the right card that you got. Anyways, that's probably not the card you get for getting the mage. I guess we'll just go this way. On this level, I think you do start fighting more thieves. Which, maybe that'll change something. Let's see. traps you put down are literally just the traps you would see in the other kinds of encounters. Problem here is I'm coming out of life just from being poisoned.
Fallen once more. Fortunately, this is but the lesser game, and we can try again.
I think the good news here is, unless I've completely forgotten how this went down in the previous episode that I actually recorded, you have seen up into the caravan, and if not, I can kind of easily describe it in saying that it is an encounter where you are going to fight you're gonna just fight a bunch of Empire people, and it's gonna be one big final battle. So there is good arguments to be made to just play things off screen. There is also kind of an argument to be made for just trying to get, instead of trying to get any kind of equipment here, just trying to get blessings or even food. This would give you equipment the way I would want to play it. Blessings themselves might be the better move. Food itself. Maybe you're supposed to be going for max life. You should probably do anything that has a fame check also, because you're going to start with fairly high fame. These all would give you gold, and they're kind of perfect event cards because they don't really require anything. This guy would recharge an artifacts ability, which is probably the health one that you want, to just be able to have that extra thing. I think this one gains fame. You pay to get fame. It's not a fame check. We're playing chance cards, it's not really worth it. Fork in the road's not probably that worth it. A friendly innkeeper that could heal you is not a terrible thought for events. And then this one would combine artifact charges. Which I think that might be more useful. This helpful priest card. Get blessings is another thought. You're just not going to get cursed. I'm trying to think if any of these cards would actually be useful. You definitely don't want anything that would involve fighting anybody. One extra fight is absolutely going to be useless. this one's a fame check. That may be the only card in the entire collection that actually is a fame check. And that's what I was looking for. So if it's not the underneath that is the card you unlock, this is, it may be the wretched. It gives you blessings. It's definitely not worth it to do this. So I guess the question might come down to, do I want something that would KO your companion for a piece of equipment that you don't really need? No. What I want is something that would give me better game cards. And I've noticed it's a very imbalanced question here. Do you either take the maiden and you get food or max life or gold as a choice, or you take the dealing with thieves and it will add platinum cards to the game deck, so the next time you gain food, well, the thing here is that's more gambling, I guess. The maiden is more of a guarantee. And if you just wanted gold, you go a Goblin Town. It kind of feels like the maiden is the more safe bet, and you get that card fairly early, which that's bad game design. If you end up with more gambly cards later, even if with the rewards not really feeling like they're much better. Then as far as weapons go, we know what this is, so we don't want that. This prevents you from being killed for 10 seconds, but you kind of don't want that. Gold shield, starting with that was a smart move, even though I forgot to use it. Let's see, 200 damage and inflict 200% less. Let's see, 30 damage, 5 uses, does not recharge its uses, so you kind of want to save that forever. This one does use this, but you need a full weapon damage, so you need your weapon to do the maximum amount of damage at that point. And so then there isn't really a high number of weapons that would have more than 23 damage, which is what the peeler has. And apparently we didn't destroy the armor of 15 armored empire. People all. What you would want is something that was specifically good against corrupted. But I don't think that shadows brimstone enemies. Yeah, the corrupted people in particular, just this one creates a corrupted pool when activated. Enemies hit while in the pool receive 200 plus damage. Corrupted are immune, so maybe doing this with token would give you something that would fight corrupted. Yeah. This is 21 damage. This is 23. Gain 1 food when the target is defeated. Harvest Blade might not be the worst weapon to take if you don't have anything else. And it does seem like it actually works to do extra damage on corrupted. It would be a very high trade-off, though, certainly, to just get a few extra bits of damage. What I need would be something that would upgrade the see, if we're going to take another shield, that might be a thought. But no, if you take a second shield, you won't start with golden shield. So that doesn't work either. I guess you could do that. Okay, I guess that's the card you want, is Bloodletting Vial. Unless you just want a gun that recharges. Which that is also a thought, is that you could stand back and let your companions do a lot more fighting and use the guns instead. And Healing Spirit and extra food makes sense. Starting with this does not, starting with that does. And so that would be what I would change here for another run. Which obviously I'm not going to do another run in this episode. There is very little otherwise that you could do. I could look up what the gold requirement is for the moon, which would just be faster to look it up online than to even jump into it and try and get gold here. And if I got the gold token, I probably would get at most 3 encounters and maybe 2 items. Probably not even that much. That probably aren't going to be game changers. They might be helpful. Or I could look up the gold requirement here, which I actually have no idea what that would be otherwise, and get the same outcome. At most 3 encounters, at most 2 items. Not likely to be big game changers. And inherently, there's just no motivation to try and get gold on everything when we're still struggling to just even get silver on Judgment. And then there is the world, and then there is still a possibility of a final boss battle. Either the High Priest or the Empress has a brimstone version of this that is still in play. Let's see. Yep. Where if we finish this quest with the Encrusted Mace, we would get a token that would give us some kind of item, but I don't know what the item really would be. Unless it doubled the amount of damage and it was just like a 48 damage item. It still wouldn't be that useful, and even at that, it seems like the enemies we're fighting in these final quests have 200 or 300 health, so you'd have to use the abilities multiple times, to the artifacts abilities multiple times, and you couldn't just use it once, kill everybody on screen, and then regain that one use and go into the next encounter. Now, as far as this extra DLC stuff, we did do the map maker, so I don't think there would be any reason to do it a second time ever. And we tried the servant, and probably have a decent amount of new cards that I could swap around compared to what I had when I last played the server. But I need to finish the main game before I even began to think about doing that. And we know Enlist is just Enlist, so there's really no reason to play that until you've just done everything in the main game. So once again, it kind of pigeonholes you into having to succeed at that next quest before you can do the next one. And there's just no alternate, like if you died 20 times it would unlock the things, or if you got gold and everything else it would unlock the next quest. It definitely wants this to be a linear experience, but also wants the game to be incredibly difficult, although it may just be that the game itself is just not balanced well enough. Let's go ahead and start here. I'm not gonna play, but I figured that'd be as good a place as any to pause. So, instead of me just sitting here in silence, I should be talking. The plan here is going to be to play this off screen and get to the caravan and start the next episode at the caravan fight with a decent chance of winning. There is a scenario there where I struggle to get to the caravan and then try and win, and then somehow magically win, but thought I wasn't going to win. So I probably at that point would just pause the game and show the outcome of the fight of the caravan. But yeah, you should know the strategy at this point of as far as what I'm going through is I'm not giving away equipment. I'm just fighting the enemies in the middle and then running to the exits. Each character, if selected correctly, will not die, and then each companion will reduce the number of enemies in the middle of each map, which will leave 4 companions by my side when we get to the caravan. At which point I suspect there might be a storyline element where each of the companions still ends up getting killed in the storyline element, because it would be questionable if all 4 companions are in the caravan sitting behind you this whole time without saying a single word. Anyways, we've already gone very long despite the interruption. That's going to be it for this episode. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, and keep on watching. Thanks.